may sound crazy, but I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, glad that it made me. Yeah, glad that it made me. Looking back on it now, I see all the pride that it gave me. So I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, made me. Yeah, it made me. It may sound crazy, but I'm glad that it made me.
We have our own idioms. We have our own language. We have written our own dictionary and refuse to be bought and bossed. We refuse to bow down to Baal. And here's the danger, because whenever you make up your mind to make up your mind, there are those who want to define you, and because you have the gall to step out of the box of their prescribed life for you, what they will do is try to demonize you and try to vilify you. What they will do, they will talk smack about you and have the nerve to call you a racist, to call you narrow-minded, to call you a fanatic, to call you a zealot. Why? Because you have the nerve to be, as Dr. Jeremiah Wright put it, unashamedly black and unapologetically Christian or Muslim, amen, or whatever your faith tradition is. What nerve you got not to worship their God, not to worship their Jesus. And may I suggest to you, like my brother Freddie Haynes said, you got to learn, if you do worship Jesus, you got to worship the right Jesus and not the white Jesus. You see, the right Jesus is an African boy that was born in Northeast Africa. Can I help somebody in here today? I know you're saying, but Brother Swan, that was the Middle East. Let me tell you about that little misnomer. There was no such place as the Middle East. The Middle East came into being in the 1850s when they built a man-made waterway called the Suez Canal that separated what they call the Middle East from Northeast Africa. Jesus was born in Africa, hid in Egypt. Come on, somebody. I'm talking about a dreadlock wearing, table flipping Jesus. That's the right Jesus. And you see, often in our activism on behalf of the communities of color, we've asked the rhetorical question, and I've been asked this a few times. Folk come on the radio show, they call me up, they ask me this question. They say, well, what if, Brother Swan, what if there was a national association for the advancement of white people? I say there is. It's called America. What if there was a United White College Fund? There is. Every PWI in America. What if there was a White History Month? That would be January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. What if white people said they were unashamedly white? Well, instead of, posting it in the blogosphere as a rhetorical quip, when they ask me that question, my answer is simple. Y'all been unashamedly white ever since you stole this country. You've been unashamedly white ever since you kidnapped us from Mother Africa. Ain't never been no shame in your game. Then when we stand up and hold them accountable for the oppression of our people, they want to tell us to go back to Africa. Well, first of all, my family has been here for 7 generations. That means my great-great-great-great-grandfather was forcibly brought here in chains. Y'all got here a few days ago when Grandma came over from the old country. This ain't your country to tell me to go back anyway. Secondly, my great-great-great-great-grandfather was stolen from Africa And the last time I checked, you can't return stolen goods. In other words, we ain't going nowhere. This nation was built on our blood, was built on our sweat, was built on our tears, was built on our forced labor. So if y'all want to go back to the caves of Europe, as Martin said, get to stepping. But we ain't going nowhere. Now just for a moment, I need for that great prophet James Brown to come back here and speak from the walls of eternity. And I hope you don't mind if I call on James for just a hot second and say to every Sean Hannity and to every Tucker Carlson and to every Rush Limbaugh and to every journalist who doesn't like us saying we're unashamed of who we are, can I call James real quick? And James will tell you to say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Young people, every time somebody tries to devalue your worth because of who you are, you ought to evoke the words of James and say it loud. Every time they label you as a thug, you ought to evoke the words of James and say it loud. Every time they call you suspicious, you ought to evoke the words of James and say it loud. Every time they call you by any pejorative label, you ought to evoke the words of James and say it loud. So understand that whenever you're proud of who you are, that others are going to attempt to keep you down. They will attempt to vilify you. They will attempt to demonize you. And if you don't believe me, ask my man Elijah here in the text. Notice, if you will, Elijah is vilified and demonized simply because he had the nerve to tell it like it is. And see, I love Elijah because Elijah, my brothers and sisters, appears on the stage of Scripture out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, he goes into the palace of Ahab and he tells Ahab, watch this, he says, man, Ahab, your administration is corrupt. And because your administration is corrupt, I'm going to ensure that the last years of your administration are characterized by a severe drought and famine. You're going to be subject to an economic downturn where you're border on recession. You're going to have a subprime crisis that's going to be so terrible that you will discover that it's not only hitting those at the bottom, but it's going to hit those at the top.
All right, y'all, we about to get it in.
And then Ahab, because you're such a lowlife, I'm going to allow you to get in a misbegotten and a mismanaged war that's going to be the end of your administration. Sounds like something we've been through before. That's what happened. I'm not making this up. It's in the Scripture. Elijah has the nerve to speak truth to power. I don't understand when prophecy became prophesying about new houses and new cars and people's phone numbers and blessing plans instead of prophecy being about speaking truth to power. But isn't God awesome? Because only God can use the jacked up administration of Ahab to set the stage to usher in a new era of hope and a possibility of change. Let me give it to you like this. Only God can reject the Saul administration, but use Saul jacking up the nation to open the door for David to come in and reign out of nowhere. I mean, where did David come from? Whoever heard of David? David was way out.
Now, your first warning weather forecast from Western Mass News.
A Clipper system will bring us a few flurries, perhaps a snow shower, scattered coatings, mainly in the hill towns. And then as we go into the afternoon, we'll see just a little bit of sunshine. High temperatures today in the middle and upper 30s. For tonight, clearing skies, chilly will fall into the teens and lower 20s. For tomorrow, we'll start with sun clouds increase in the afternoon. Highs tomorrow in the middle and upper 30s. For tomorrow night, we could have a few snow showers as a storm system misses us and passes out to sea. Temperatures tomorrow night in the 20s. And for Wednesday, sunshine mixed with clouds that become windy. Highs in the mid-30s. Thursday, sunshine, cold, highs in the upper 20s. With your Western Mass News First Warning Forecast, I'm meteorologist Dan Brown.
90.7 FM WTCC would like to thank the following sponsors of our annual Christmas Party for Children: Toys for Tots, Inspections by Marcos, Spirit of Springfield, Bright Nights, Coffee Cup Bakery, KFC, State Street, Costco's, West Springfield, Golden Corral, Springfield, Major Legends Entertainment, The Crew, the Springfield Black Music Month Committee, Priceless, Faithwear.com, Graziano Garden, Old School Pizza, Bob the Bike Guy, Balloons by Carmen, Caring Health, and 90.7 FM WTCC. Thank you so much for your support.
This program has been underwritten by the Pastors Council of Greater Springfield.
The Pastors Council of Greater Springfield cordially invites you to our annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Worship Service. You can anticipate a wonderful worship experience led by the DMJ, United Voices of Praise, and a powerful and dynamic sermon by Bishop W. Darren Moore, presiding bishop in the AME Zion Church from Washington, D.C. The worship service will take place on Wednesday, January 15th at 7 p.m. at St. John's Congregational Church. We look forward to seeing you there Wednesday, January 15th at 7 p.m.
WTCC would like to thank the Pastors Council of Greater Springfield for underwriting with us.
This program has been underwritten by Mass Hire Springfield.
Was your New Year's resolution to find a new job? Mass Hire Springfield Career Center has you covered with our Keeping Western Mass Working Job Expo, Thursday, January 16th,
Alrighty.
7 p.m. at the Basketball
We're going to get the
Hall of
senator
Fame.
on. We're going to get
Make
into our
good on that
convo.
resolution. See recruiters from 40 businesses join Mass Hire Springfield, Thursday, January 16th, 4 to 7 at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Look for the list of companies at massHireSpringfield.org, massHireSpringfield.org.
WTCC would like to thank Mass Hire Springfield for underwriting with us.
Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the spoken word. Bishop Talbert Swan II. Now, those of you who've been sending me messages about my Make Black Wall Street Great Again t-shirt, check out Authorities, okay? AUTHORITEES. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out on Twitter. And our sister will hook you up. Get all of your, it's the clothing of the movement, you know. Get your t-shirts from there. And so whenever you see me on the program wearing one of these t-shirts with a profound message on it, that's where you need to go to check it out, okay? So 1:30, Senator Eric Lesser is going to be coming on the program. And he's going to be giving us a State House update. So let me just set up what's going to happen after that. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's old tweets have come back to bite him yet again. All right. Early Friday morning, there was a U.S. airstrike near Baghdad International Airport that killed Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani. All right. He directed the assassination without congressional authority. Now, he has since then basically said to Congress, this is how brash and crazy this guy is. He says to Congress via Twitter that his tweets are his official communication with them. So basically, if you're elected to the U.S. Congress, if you're in the House of Representatives, or if you're a U.S. Senator, that the way you're going to find out, you know, what's going on with this war or these strikes that could lead to war, you're going to have to pay attention to my Twitter feed, because I ain't got to go to Congress and tell y'all nothing. Okay? that this is what this guy is telling Congress. He's thumbing his nose at Congress and saying, I don't have to obey y'all. I don't have to obey the Constitution. You know, I don't have to be subject to anything. I'm the king of America, and I can do what the hamburger I want to do whenever I want to do it, however I want to do it. That's what he's saying. We have turned into a dictatorship. This is no longer a republic. This is no longer never really was a democracy, but it's no longer a democratic republic. Okay? This is a dictatorship with a madman at the helm of government thumbing his nose and saying, I can do what the hell I want whenever I want to, and y'all can't do nothing about it. You can impeach me, but guess what? I've got a Republican Senate that's not going to remove me from office, and I've put hundreds of judges from the Supreme Court on down that if any of this goes to court, the judges are going to find in my favor. So in essence, he's set himself up as a dictator that is not subject to Congress. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to believe that or not. Because anybody who can tell Congress, y'all pay attention to my tweets, that's how y'all going to find out. If I feel like going to war, I'm going to go to war, and the hell with you. And Congress is impotent to do anything about it because the Republican sycophants in Congress are not going to defy this guy. That's the reality of where we are, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop. Eric Lester here.
How you doing, Senator?
I'm good. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, sir. I'm a little passionate this morning talking about this madman in the White House who basically told Congress that I don't have to go to Congress. I don't have to update you. I don't have to get your approval. I can do what I want. I can strike against Iran in 52 places, and you'll find out what I'm doing on Twitter like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like we repeatedly say this, but we've hit a new low, and this is pretty scary because it's real life. It's not a reality show, but we just got to get him out of there. Then that's got to be the focus at this point. But it's very troubling times. Troubling times. I'm glad that you're on it though, Bishop, because your show keeps shining a light. So we appreciate that.
Trying to get the information out there as much as I can. But tell us what's happening at the State House. It's been a minute since you've been on, so give us an update.
Yeah, I know it's been a little bit. First, happy holidays to everyone and happy New Year. It's already snowing again for 2020, so we'll see.
Yeah, I wasn't happy to see that when I came out this morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the forecast looks like it's not going to really stick, so let's keep our fingers crossed on that. But yeah, so I mean, I know one of the biggest things we have been talking about for really months on the show was the education bill, which got done. Finally got done. The governor signed it, so it's done. And it's really a historic rewrite of how the state funds education across our Commonwealth. For Springfield in particular, $90 million more a year in funding is going to come after the bill is fully implemented. Now, the next step here is it's a 7-year phase-in, and this coming budget year, which starts in July, is going to be the first year of really the ramp-up of implementation. So in a few weeks, the governor will be filing his proposal for the FY21 budget, and that'll really be the beginning of making this commitment, real and cashing the check, so to speak. But really a historic event. It was a big deal, really decades in the making. The last time there had been a rewrite of the funding formula like this was 1993. So that was a really big deal, and it was a really incredible coalition of people from across the state that worked on this for a long, long time. So that was really a piece of good news. We've also finally started to see, the real implementation of the criminal justice reforms that were passed about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. There was a report that just came out, the Springfield Republican had it on the front page, that actually teen incarceration rates are at their lowest point in many, many years in Massachusetts, and arrest rates are also going down for the first time, which is a good sign. And then we've got a couple big things.
But we've got to work on that here in Springfield, though. And I read that, and I know that arrest rates are going down across the Commonwealth, but they're still highest in this area. And so we definitely have to deal with that. And also, as part of that reform, it dealt with how our schools could interact with school resource officers, with police officers that are in schools, and what had to be in the MOUs, et cetera, et cetera. And I asked people to be mindful of that and to ensure that what's in the MOU here is in compliance with the state law.
Yeah, so I'm glad you pointed that out, because the two items I just mentioned and related to your point on this are all connected. So, for example, the money that is going to come from the new Student Opportunity Act, it's called, a large portion of that is actually going to be to dramatically increase funding for school resource and what they call social and emotional support in schools. Because what we found is, you could have the science classes, the math classes, et cetera, but if you're not providing services for people, if you're not providing access to behavioral health services, if you're not tackling substance abuse issues in a healthcare setting and in a social work setting, you're not going to get the impact you need. And you need to coordinate that and really change the culture around how discipline is handled at the schools. So there's going to be resources, and there's going to be a lot more resources coming in the next few years. So I think the next step here is exactly what you're saying, Bishop. We're seeing top-line trends that are hopefully going in the right direction, but there are still areas, and certainly Springfield is one area where the numbers need to get a lot better, and the feedback needs to get a lot better, and that has to be around changing the culture with law enforcement, changing how the school resource officers really approach the school communities, and lifting up a lot of the success stories we've seen, because there are a lot of really, really great stories of change and of empowerment happening in our schools, and finding those and lifting those up and getting those teachers, getting those students the resources to then grow out from there is going to be really important.
Absolutely. So let me pick your brain here. I got to do this because, it just is. You're in the Senate, and, hey, we got some high-profile political races going on here in the Commonwealth. And I was, I had to do an interview with the New York Times about the 1st Congressional District with the mayor of Holyoke, Alex Morris, taking on the incumbent Richie Neal. What are your thoughts on that race? Have you aligned with anyone in that race, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked it. It's certainly been a talk around town. I support and enthusiastically support Congressman Neal, have for a long, long time, and certainly enthusiastically support his reelection. I like Alex a lot. I really admire Alex. Alex is someone who I've looked to for my own inspiration as a young person running in office, and I think we can honor that work he's done and the paths he's broken and brought down himself as a young person, and a progressive winning in Holyoke and the change he's brought there, but also acknowledge that I think our Congressman Richie Neal, as the chair of Ways and Means, really is in a very, very unique and very important position right now, especially with what we have happening with the president. I don't think that we can stand to be disunited, so to speak, in terms of responding to that. Congressman Neal is one of the leaders of the effort of the impeachment investigation. He was one of the committee chairs that helped lead that effort. So, I personally am just very enthusiastic about Neal and hope he returns. And another example I'd give you of kind of the cloud he's built up and the impact he's had is the Chinese rail factory, which a lot of us have worked on for a long, long time. The CRRC plant in Springfield, which employs over 200 people and was growing and was hiring more people, was at threat to be closed. And it was really him that stepped in, prevented that, got the law changed. So It's going to be an interesting race, so definitely been watching it closely. But Neil's someone who I enthusiastically support.
Okay, so let's switch over to presidential race. We've got our senior senator here, Elizabeth Warren, and also a dark horse who kind of stepped into the race late. But we've got also former Governor Deval Patrick, who's also running. What are your thoughts on the presidential race and those from the Commonwealth?
Yeah, well, so first off, I think, for president, we need someone who is going to beat Trump. That is really, just for me, the most important thing. We absolutely need someone who's going to be strong, who's going to build the movement, who's going to be able to have the firepower to defeat him, because that, to me, is the single most important thing that we need to do in the next year in our country is change who the president is. So I really like Governor Patrick a lot. I've worked with him. He's supported me. I think he got in a little late, and I think I certainly wish him well, wish him luck. But I'm enthusiastically with Senator Ward and have been since she announced. I've worked with her on a lot of issues. I know you and I, Bishop, have talked about the student loan issues on your show. She's been someone who's worked really closely with that issue as well. And I'll tell you, actually, just from working with her as the U.S. Senator, myself as a state senator, whenever there's an issue, when there's a veteran who needs help, when there's someone who has an issue with the federal government, when there's a project that we need help with in any of our communities in my district, we always call her and she immediately responds. Her team is phenomenal, so I think she'd be a great president. In fact, actually, I was in New Hampshire on Saturday. We brought a group up, Senator Joe Comerford from Northampton, Rep. Dan Carey from East Hampton, and myself. We brought a bus full of people up. It was pouring rain and freezing cold, but we had about 26 people who came up with us, knocked on several hundred doors during the day. We got great feedback the whole time. Came back very wet, very cold, but very motivated.
Absolutely. Okay.
Candidate?
Well, that was slick. We're going to reserve that for me to make an announcement here on the program. But right now I'm doing the interviewing. All right. I want to appreciate you so much for calling in with the update. Give the folks out there your contact information once again, so if they want to get in touch with you, connect with anything that you're doing.
So thanks so much, Bishop. So people can reach me on social media at Eric Lesser on Twitter. You can reach out to me on Twitter or DM us. You can also reach out on Facebook. It's Eric Lesser MA. Again, Eric Lesser MA on Facebook. On Instagram, it's Eric Lesser MA. Again, Eric Lesser MA. Or give us an old-fashioned phone call. The office number is 413-526-6501. Again, 526-6501. Or you can send me an email, eric.lesser at masenate.gov. Again, eric.lesser at masenate.gov. Or come by our office hours. We also have an office in East Longmeadow, which is 60 Shaker Road. So any or all of those options work.
All right, Senator. Good to hear from you as always.
All right, thanks, Bishop. Take care.
All right. 413-736-2781. That was Senator Eric Lesser giving us our Massachusetts State House update. So let's continue on this Iran war thing. So many of 46-1's old tweets have surfaced after the attack on Friday, where he claimed that Barack Obama would start a war with Iraq in an effort to win re-election. Let me take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on WTCC.
Yeah, Senator Lesser. I just want to make a point that he's everything that's wrong with politics today, which is why we have Trump.
So Senator Lesser is why we have Trump?
I'm saying he's an example of why we have Trump, because he's supporting a congressman that's been there for 30 years previous guy was there 45 years. We've had 2 congressmen in the last 75 years, and we know what Eric Lester's got to do. He's got to kiss Richie Neal's ring in order to...
Well, who are you supporting in the race?
In which race?
Who are you supporting in the 1st congressional district race? So you're supporting whoever the Republican is, even if the Republican is Charles Manson. It doesn't matter. Just vote for the Republican. It doesn't matter. It's like kind of, if it's Roy Moore, if it's a rapist, a pedophile, whatever. Just as long as it's not a Democrat, right?
No, that's not true. No, but you know what? We do have a country that's a 2-party system, and in Massachusetts, it's pretty much a 1-party system.
Oh, you don't like that, huh?
But you won't come out and support your candidate. You know who I support.
No, who do you support?
Presidentially, I support Donald Trump.
Oh, of course you do. I mean, you support whoever the Republican is. You already said that. You already said it. What I don't. Let me put it. I'll tell you who I don't support. I don't support white supremacists. I don't support rapists. I don't support traitors. I don't support people who grab women by the genitals. I don't support Joe Biden. No, I don't support. Matter of fact, if you check the record, I have been vocally against Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the daddy of mass incarceration. I've been on this show talking against Joe Biden. So don't get it twisted. Don't act like I'm not beholden to the Democratic Party. Okay? I'm beholden to my own principles. But you're beholden to a party, regardless of how dishonorable and regardless of what lack of principles the persons in your party have, like Donald Trump, because you can't get more dastardly than him. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller. All right, caller don't want to talk. Let's try this line. Good morning, caller.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Bishop, I have something to say. I think that Patrick is doing the right thing by jumping into this race. It doesn't really matter how late he is. He has experience. I also see that I am a black woman. I'm an African American, and there is no one in your Democrat Party that represents any of my principles or my values. We all have different issues. I know. So
what principles and values do they not? Let me ask the question. Let me hold on. Let me ask the question. What principles and values do you have that they don't represent?
Working, respecting people, loving the Lord.
Wait. So nobody who's a Democrat. Wait, let me finish the question. Nobody that's a Democrat supports working. Yeah, I kind of knew where this was going.
So, well, what I'm saying is, I don't think that...
So you're one of those blacks for Trump, right?
I'm trying to say, I don't think that...
So you're one of those blacks for Trump, right?
No, I'm saying, I am a black... I voted for Trump before blacks came out and...
Okay, so are you voting for him again?
Well, this is what I'm asking you now because you are the bishop. I don't think that it is proper for a senator to get on any social media or any intercom and tell people who they should vote for.
He's a politician. That's what they do. They ask people to vote for stuff. Oh, come on. Be serious. Come on. He's a politician. Since when is a politician not supposed to tell you how to vote? That's what they do. Blacks for Trump is like roaches for Raid. You know, that's what that is. 413-736-2781. So let me get back here. Following the attack on Iran, an old tweet from Trump that wrongfully predicted Obama would do something parallel during his first presidency in order to get reelected began to recirculate. This is what he said. He said, in order to get reelected, Barack Obama will start a war with Iran. He wrote this back in 2011. And in a painfully ironic doubling down, he made the same allegations 3 times throughout October prior to the November 2012 election. He said, now that Obama's poll numbers are in tailspin, watch for him to launch a strike in Libya or Iran. He is desperate. Then he said, polls are starting to look really bad for Obama. Looks like he'll have to start a war or a major conflict to win. Don't put it past him. This is all the stuff he was tweeting. Doesn't this sound eerily familiar to the predicament he finds himself in now as an impeached president whose poll numbers can't seem to get past 40, even though he keeps lying and saying they're at 50%? Doesn't it sound like his situation right now? Absolutely. So what does he do? I'm going to start a war with Iran. And, you know, hey, Congress can't do anything about it. Now, even though he said himself that Obama needed congressional approval to strike Syria, now all of a sudden he says he doesn't need congressional approval to strike Iran. And here's the deal. There is a receptive audience for an armed conflict with Iran. And the most accepting of racism in America, the most hostile toward Muslim, those who voted for Donald Trump are the most likely to be in support of an armed conflict with Iran just because. Think about it. 15 years after America invaded Iraq, there's still this limited understanding of the ways that comfort systemic racial inequalities and racist attitudes toward people of color, and how it translates into support for war. The most prominent supporters of the Iraq War and other interventions in the so-called Middle East, they often let their mask slip off. You know, you look at people like Thomas Friedman, who said that the purpose of the Iraq War was to tell the Arab world to suck on this. He admitted that it had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction or anything like that. If you remember, Christopher Hitchens spent the later years of his life defending the Iraq War on right-wing media and claiming that the term Islamophobia was just designed to promote criticism of Islam, to the gallery of special offenses associated with racism. Basically said no such thing as Islamophobia. And in today's culture, the anthem for the Iraq War, if you remember, it was the country music artist Clint Black who sang the song Iraq and I Roll, that our troops take out the garbage for the good old USA. Yeah, this is the stuff that has been said and has been promoted in the culture. And then, of course, you have right-wing evangelicals like Franklin Graham, who swore George W. Bush into office at his first inauguration, if you remember, who denounce Islam as a very evil and wicked religion, as has Robert Jeffress and John Hagee and so many of them. And that approach lives on today. And there has been documented studies that have been promulgated to show that racial animus underpins the imperialist designs of conservatives and those on the right. That it's no thing to attack black and brown people. You know, we're gonna go into Panama. If we go into Africa and attack if we go into Panama with Manuel Noriega, or we go into Africa, into Libya with Muammar Gaddafi, you know, we go into Iraq with Saddam Hussein, or, you know, any of these places where non-white people exist, they have no problem attacking them for frivolous reasons, for non-existent reasons, preemptive strikes and such. And the so-called patriots in America, your white, conservative, right-wing Republican arm, are gung-ho about supporting our troops, supporting our president, supporting our country when it comes to random attacks on black and brown people that have no merit and are not in the best interest of the nation. Just straight imperialist design. We know Iraq was more about oil than it was weapons that still haven't been found. I mean, these politicians perpetuate racial hierarchies. And that's what it has to do. It has nothing to do with their so-called articulated hawkish views. It's their racial attitude that affects their attitudes about when America should send troops abroad. And as I said, there have been studies that have studied the acceptance of race, what they call the acceptance of racism scale, which measures how much someone agrees or disagrees with statements like white people in the United States have certain advantages and that racial problems in the United States are rare or isolated situations, that people who normally agree with these things are placed somewhere along the racial scale, and those who place certain places on the racial scale are the most likely to endorse different justifications for the use of military force, like weapons of mass destruction, like Mike Pompeo saying that the general that they murdered was planning some attacks, and so we needed to kill him, was planning some attacks. Really? And this is the same military intelligence that Trump doesn't believe when it comes to anything else. But now all of a sudden, they're trying to come up with an excuse. That sounds to me like weapons of mass destruction. Just make up something to justify what we did or what we want to do. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning. Good morning, caller.
Hey, Bishop, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm listening to you. You're well informed. You know, the audience that you're probably speaking with can't understand the concept that you're giving. You're talking over them because I'm up with you, but they can't understand the last concept that you just gave. That is the crux of the problem. There's a theory that white people, they're not bad, they're just ignorant, okay? And all this is based on ignorance and their domination of what they want to do is dominate the world and control it. This last act that Trump just pulled in assassination opens up a new chapter in warfare whereby all countries now, leaders are now, they're all up.
It was a war crime. The bottom line is this. You cannot just decide that in any nation that there's a military leader or a political figure who doesn't like America and he might be planning something against America, so we're just going to kill him. We're just going to order his assassination. And this is traditional American imperialism. You can go back to the assassination of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo, and then after they assassinated Patrice Lumumba, they propped up Mobutu Seko, and he only came to power with America's support. Then 30 years later, when he's gone, all the American papers talk about this brutal dictator that's finally out of power. And the ignorance of the American people was that they didn't know the history of the fact that it was America that put him in power in the first place. You can go to Iraq. They
I tell you, they're not bad people. They're just ignorant.
They made Saddam Hussein into a monster, but they didn't tell you.
You work for America.
What they didn't tell you was George Bush Sr., when he was over the CIA, recruited Saddam Hussein to fight against the Taliban. And the reason Saddam Hussein came to power was because of America. And then they flipped the script.
Stop right there.
Uh-huh.
The Shah of Iran. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely.
We're getting ready. The Shah of Iran was propped up, paid well, paid extremely well for years. Matter of fact, over 40 years, to control and suppress the people, his own people, so that suppress his own economy, so that the United States can work their influence in and around that area. Iraq, Iran, and as you stated earlier, the Middle East was not the Middle East until they built the Suez Canal. And people need to understand that, okay?
Absolutely. Then you can flip and you can go to when the Taliban was fighting against Russia. All of a sudden, America loved the Taliban and supported the Taliban. And the reason the Taliban went into power in Afghanistan was because of the support of America. The reason Manuel Noriega came into power in Panama was because of the support of America. And then America, when they fall out with you, they label you, they use propaganda against you, they make you into a dictator and all of that. And then the gullible American people buy into it without understanding that America created these monsters across the world.
One last concept. When chickens come home to roost. And I leave it there. Thank you very much, Bishop.
All right. Thank you for your call. That's what Malcolm said when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, that the chickens have come home to roost. I'm not going to have time to get into this anti-Semitism executive order. We'll probably try to tackle that next week. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
No, man, you guys are hitting it on the nail, man. At this point, I've been following the narrative of your story, and at this point, if you look at what Trump is really trying to do, I think he's really trying to get in there now to bomb those nuclear facilities. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I believe. I mean, they're lying and saying that he's targeting cultural sites, which would be a war crime. I mean, you're going to target random cultural sites and put civilians at risk and that kind of thing. That's crazy. But that's what I really think, because they have been wanting to start a war with Iran for a while. And the folks that Trump has had around him, even though he let Bolton go, but a lot of these guys, they are war hawks, and Iran has been in their eyesight for years.
Yeah. And you know what, man? I'm looking at, okay, now that they got the ISIS under control, now all of a sudden that the Shiites were helping, and the same general, what's his name, whatever, the one they just assassinated, he was assisting them. Now all of a sudden he turns to be an enemy all of a sudden. You know, and then come on now. chapter now. Now, just like you said in your byline, there's going to be leaders, other leaders thinking they can take the same posture now, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a dangerous precedent that has now been set to where basically Trump has been able to thumb his nose at Congress. He's been able to say, I don't have to comply with your oversight. I don't have to answer your subpoenas. I don't have to allow you to have any level of oversight over the executive branch. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. If you impeach me, so what? The Senate won't remove me. I got these Republicans on lock. I got them under my thumb. They're scared I'm going to tweet about them or say something bad about them or destabilize them in their local elections. So they're going to do whatever I say. So I'm going to be in office anyway. And I don't have to abide by the Constitution. I can go to war when I want to. I can order strikes and assassinations when I want to. He has wanted to be a dictator for so long. He has admired Kim Jong-un, and he has admired the dictators in China and Putin in Russia and others for so long. And now he has finally gotten to the point where he has now become one of them, and Congress is impotent to do anything with this despot.
Yes, and I can't say any more than that. The sad state of affairs is where we're at right now.
Thank you for your call.
Take care, brother.
That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we are. The United States of America can no longer talk about democracy or being the beacon of hope and democracy in the world when we've got a dictator just like they do. That's the reality. We've got a dictator who can defy congressional subpoenas, can avoid getting removed from office because he's got loyal sycophants in the Republican Party that are running the Senate that are afraid of him. He can thumb his nose at Congress and tell Congress, I don't need congressional approval to go to war. You'll find out what I'm doing when I tweet about it, just like everybody else. And Congress can do nothing with this guy. And if they go to court, because Democrats were complacent in allowing Mitch McConnell to get all of these federal judges approved, there's hardly any court you can go to in America at the federal level that won't side with the Trump administration. So you can't beat him in court. You can't beat him in the Senate. So we have a dictatorship in America. In 3 years, it's been transformed into a dictatorship, whether we want to believe it or not. When that clown said I can go out on 5th Avenue and shoot somebody in the head and my people will still support me, he was telling the truth. And not only will his people still support him, but the Republican Party will still support him. The Republican leaders in Congress will still support him. They'll say, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't anybody important that he shot in the head. I mean, just like they did with this quid pro quo, with this bribery call with the president of Ukraine. It's not a big deal. It doesn't rise to high crimes, misdemeanor. He shot somebody in the head. That's not a high crime or misdemeanor. This is the attitude of the people in power about Trump. He has successfully transformed this nation into a brutal fascist dictatorship, no better than Russia, no better than Iraq or Iran or any other place. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's where we are. Good morning, caller.
How come your loyalty to Obama was the same thing?
Obama told Congress, he thumbed his nose at Congress and told him, to hell with you. I'll go to war when I feel like it, and you'll find out about it on Twitter. On Twitter, did he do that? Did Obama say, the hell with you? I'm going to ignore congressional subpoenas. I'm going to wait. We both ain't going to talk at the same time. Did Obama ignore congressional subpoenas? I mean, are you really comparing Obama to this madman in the White House? Or you just gaslighting again? Oh, you hung up, as usual. You can't compare the two. You can't compare the two. Okay? Obama did not order assassinations of military generals in other countries. He did not announce on Twitter that if y'all do something, I got 52 of your sites all queued up, ready to bomb them. He did not get on Twitter and threaten to blow entire countries off the face of the planet. Stop it. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. I just want to weigh in on the subject that you're speaking of right now. I've been saying right along for a long time, these people that Trumpies or however you want to label it, has to realize the people that they're making little puppets is already done here in America. And like you say, Putin, Young, or wherever those foreign people are that are dictators, that's exactly where our president, so-called United States, wants to be. And if you got enough of these little weasel or whatever we want to call it, crawling around in the grass, sucking Trump's thumb, people need to wake up. And all these people that supporting Trump better put their eyes on exactly where we are in this country and do the right thing and get this guy out of there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. You're the last caller of the day, and you hung up, so you missed out. Listen, coming up next is James Lewis. He's coming up with mid-morning jazz and great black music. If you're looking for a place to worship, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ. We're located at 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts. The brick church right there at Six Corners. Prayer at 7 a.m., Sunday school 9:30 a.m., morning worship at 11 o'clock a.m., Bible study on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And this Friday, we'll have a fellowship service with Pastor Hall and the Abundant Life Church of God in Christ from Concord, New Hampshire. So if you're not busy, stop by at 7 p.m. on Friday night and join us in our fellowship service. I got to get out your way. We'll pick up on that executive order, anti-Semitism executive order, because you really need to know that that's not about anti-Semitism. It's about white supremacy. So I got to move out your way. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I. All right, love y'all. Y'all be good. I'ma holler at you later. Peace out, YouTube.